Other resources that are available are sites specifically for hiking. All Trails is another good website and an app that you can download and use it to hike with. But on your computer, you can do a lot of research and learn about trails and see some information and even some trail reports. And trail reports are basically posts by people that have gone out on the trail. When they come back, they post their opinion, thoughts, comments, or commentary on the trail. So, and they also should be noting what the conditions were, which, depending on what they put, may or may not be of any use to you. If you're looking at a trail and there's a trail report from 2 years ago and they're noting the weather, well, that's not really useful. But if they're talking about the trail itself, how it wasn't well marked, or it was very well marked, that's something you might be interested in, because that applies to you. The weather is going to change too much to be of use. Trails to be a very great resource because you can do a lot of research. You can move the map around and it'll start showing you hikes or trails that are in that area of the map. And then you can do further research, and then you can actually leave their site with the information you have. You're usually able to see a map. Sometimes you can see an elevation profile and a brief description of the trail, but you can then also go to other sites and do additional web search, and you'll get more information. It'll also tell you the rating for the trail, whether it's easy, strenuous, hard, difficult, things like that. It also tells you the type of trail. Once again, the three major types of trails are a point to point. So you start at one point and you end at another. And that makes some logistical issues for you if you're doing a long trail. But if you're able to go in, 2 miles, turn around and come back, you'll end back with your car. That's called an in and out. That's another type of trail. Go in one area and you retrace your step back to the same place you started. Or loops. Loop means you start at one spot, you're going to make like a circular route, or it may not be circular actually, but you're going to make a route that will take you back to where you started at the trail, either the trailhead or the parking lot, without repeating your steps. So you're not backtracking, you're going over a new trail. And sometimes you can even make these up by doing 2 or 3 trails that are in the area and making some sort of circular route to take you back there, even if it's not on the same trail. Another suggestion I would have is, if you're planning a hike, contact whatever the agency or controlling club that manages or oversees that area that you're going to hike in. So if it's a park, the rangers, if it's a hiking club that's responsible for maintaining it, contact them. They'll have the most up-to-date information and resources about the trail. They'll be able to provide you where you can get maps, or get maps for you, or they may sell them that you can purchase them. They'll also be able to tell you about current conditions and probably be able to guide you on what a good first hike is, whether it's the ranger or the hiking club. If you let them know you're a new hiker and you're looking to go out for your first hike and what you're looking for, 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles, they can usually make a suggestion to something and tell you where you can leave your car, where facilities are, like a restroom, maybe even a restaurant to go to before or after the hike in the area. So they're a great. At this point, I will be showing some of the things that I have been discussing. I will start with a visit to alltrails.com. I will be using it as if I did not have an account, which I do. They have both a free and a paid site. So this is what the screen will look like when you log in. You can choose hikes in your areas, or you can search for an area. Now, I started putting in Smoky Mountains, which I decided to use as a search, pretending I'm going on a vacation there and I want to do a hike. But it's better to sometimes use a general search. So instead of putting in Smoky Mountains, I'm going to go back and actually put in North Carolina, because it's not bringing up the area that I want, because I don't know the name of the trail that I'm looking for. So it's better to bring up a map screen, which is what I think is the best feature in all trails, especially when you're searching, because it shows you all the trails. So with North Carolina, you can see this shows all the best trails as they rate them, and you can scroll down and see. But right in the center here of the screen is what I think is, like I said, the best feature in all trails. It's a map. And you can move this map around and it will update itself. So I'm going to zoom in on it, and I can see off to the left here is the Smoky Mountains, and I'm going to zoom in on that. And each one of these blue dots represent a trail. And if there's a number in there, that's the number of trails that are in that area, but the map is just scaled too large to show it. So let's keep zooming in, and then I'll center the Smoky Mountains National Park in the center. So, and you can see how it's narrowing out. They have these filters, which I'm going to use right now. So I'm setting the difficulty for easy. I'm looking for beginning hike. And I'm going to set it for somewhere between 2 to 5 miles. And then I'm also going to pick a loop as the type of trail that I'm looking to do. So that will narrow down the returns that I get. It'll filter those out. And it leaves me, as you can see, with pretty much 2 trails that are in the park as I zoom in. And it'll knock out those other ones. So you can see the hikes are on the left. And if you click on one, it'll take you back to the screen because it wants you to set up an account, which is free. So you can do that. After logging in, it would, but if you don't, now that I have a trail name, if I actually leave the All Trails site and I just do a search with the city name, in this case, I'm choosing to do a search just for that name. So I can actually avoid going back to the sign-in screen, which is not really a big deal, but I'm just saying, let's say you didn't want to open up an account or give your information, whatever. You can see here, it shows Bryson, North Carolina, and if I searched in that area, I get the 2 hikes that I was looking at earlier. But if I click on one of them now, instead of taking me back to the sign-in page, it actually takes me to the page for the hike. Each specific hike has a page. And all I'm doing is searching for that trail again. So instead of clicking on the hike, I actually clicked on Bryson City, and it shows me a list of hikes. You can see on the right that I could be interested. The map screen is in the middle, but I was able to click, and it takes me to the actual page. So there's several pieces of information that are important to note. Obviously, I have the distance, the elevation change, the route style. I can get directions to the trail. So I'm skipping through a lot of that because this video is already long enough. There's other hikes that are in the area on the right-hand side and along the bottom. So, but let's look over at the map screen. So I'm zooming in on the map, and it shows you the trail. It's highlighted. And underneath, I can see on the left here, I have the distance, the elevation change, the type of trail. But underneath the map, I have an elevation profile. And using my previous little math that I discussed in one of my other videos of feet per mile, and I'm just going to round out to 3 miles, 450 feet elevation change. That's 150 feet per mile. That's a pretty relatively easy trail to hike. And as I move along on the elevation trail, you see the blue dot moves along the trail. So it shows you where in the trail that specific point is. So you can also zoom in and out on the trail to get a better map. If you have the paid site, the pro site, you can print up this map, but maps are available other places on the internet. So here I'm zooming in. You can see the trail. The red mark is the GPS points for most people that walk that point, where the map underneath shows the underlying trail. And you can see there's some other trails in the area. Most importantly, you see the P there for a parking area, another box we check on our things we look for sometimes. And you can see a little green circle with a male and female symbol, which I'm assuming means there's a bathroom. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's probably some picnic area or picnic tables there as well. So that checks off a lot of our boxes. And I just scroll down, you can see pictures, of it. Now I'm going to leave here and I'm going to just do a search for that actual trail by itself to see if I can find some other sites that may have information. That obviously had some trail information, but I want to see if I can do more research and get more information on the trails. And I found another, like, this is actually a different trail. It's in the same area, but it's not the waterfall loop. It's the Deep Creek loop. And you can see this one is pretty detailed, has the same information, has directions in there. It also has a nice description, very lengthy. Right? It goes down, it lists part of the trail, a little bit of its history, some of the things you'll see, some pictures of obviously some fauna, some flowers, sometimes wildlife. Here's a picture of one of the waterfalls that you'll see. But there's a very good description of the trail in the distance on some of these sites. And here you have a map and an elevation profile, just like pretty much standard on most sites. You're discussing a trail, you're going to see obviously a distance, and you're going to see an elevation profile. And one thing on distance, and other times you'll see different distances. A lot of people use GPS, and then they always argue that their GPS says the trail is wrong. It's your GPS that's wrong. The trail is probably right, and the notes are right. It's your trail, your GPS is wrong. They're highly inaccurate in a 3D world, but that's another discussion for another time. Here's another trail site showing the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It's a hiking site. Has a very good map, very good elevation profile, and a very, very detailed list of that trail and distances. So you can see every, sometimes even 0.1, it's noting what you're going to see, if there's a fork, a dead end, what you might see. Several good pictures as well. And this would be a very good site. I would print this little portion up, and this would be a very good map to try and follow that trail, because it tells me what I might see. If it splits to the left, stay to the right. The trail veers off to the left. In this case, maybe at a big boulder or there's a bench, things like that. So that is a very good description. Here I'm trying to find a map, which is not hard to do either. I just look for images and usually can find one. I haven't even gone to the actual website for the park yet to look for it. But here's a map I could probably print up. And this trail is very easy to follow. If you read some of the remarks, obviously I don't want to take time, this video is long enough, but a lot of the remarks, the trail is very easy to follow. It's not a problem. You don't need a map to follow it. It's just good to know where you're going. I would print that up and probably put it in a Ziploc bag so it doesn't get wet or get ruined. It won't rip and tear, and if water gets on it, it's not going to bleed ink all over me or my clothes. So, and here's the actual website for the park. And here's a list of Deep Creek. Up at the top, they have information on different activities you can do and any trail notices. But more importantly, you're going to see the map, which we always like to see, and it has a list of hikes. But more importantly, at the bottom, you see right there, there's an emergency number. It tells you to dial 911, but for non-life threatening. So if you're lost or something like that, you use that number. You're going to want to copy that number down, because that's what I was talking about earlier in the video. Okay, now I'm going to go to another site that is also, and just for information, hiking, all trails, and there was a website called trails.com have combined. They're all trails now. Hiking project, which is subsidized and affiliated with REI, which is a very well-known outdoor outfitter. And this is a great source. This is a crowdsource, though. So if people don't put information on or update it or post, then it doesn't have sites in there. So not everything is here. Once again, we have a lot of good information here. The elevation change, the high and the low, how long the trail is, whether it's a loop, the grade. They also include whether dogs are good. Here's a list of the difficulty ratings and what they mean. I'm going to go through these pretty quick. So it's very similar to all trails, but it tells you what makes up different difficulties and how you should be grading it. Once again, this is a crowdsource, so that rating is based upon people's ratings, not some arbitrary rating or something that the government or the Trail Association made. Here's the map once again. I'm going to zoom in. It shows you certain parts on the trail, sometimes very key parts you want to see, or it might have a link to a picture out of a certain site. That would be of importance to you. You can see the elevation profile as well. It denotes the harder portions in different colors based on the grade. So you can see the beginning and the middle of the portion are kind of easy. Very nice description. On the right is check-ins with people listed some of their thoughts and comments and opinions on the trail.
On the bottom, you see trail ratings and difficulty. Once again, these are based on what people posted. And if you click on the full information, you can see which person rated it and what the difficulty was. So by reading the rating, you might decide someone is a more reliable source and take their rating over someone else. But a lot of the comments list how easy it was. It was a very easy trail, well marked, wasn't very bad. You can see other trails on the right-hand side as we go up, current weather, but trail conditions, and you can see the history. So the last person was on this trail just a couple of days ago, by the time I'm doing this, in August, like 30 days ago, and it's listing all clear. But before that, you can see there was some trees down, but that person didn't note anything. So there's a lot of information here that you can see and utilize. So, as discussed earlier, if you just do a web search for hiking trails near me, you'll get a return. I'm not going to do that, but you can also put an area in, depending on what it is. So you can put in any area. You can do this by the park, obviously, just like we did earlier, and you can see all the trails will be listed here, and you'll get a bunch of returns. Some of them might be outfitters or repetitive, but it's a good starting point. This is how you start doing your research for trails. You can also do it by state. You can do it by city. Here I'm doing it by Nebraska, which is a state. And then once I find an area, I might go back and decide to do it a little better, like Lincoln, Nebraska, because it's a big state and I don't want returns from all over. I want to localize it. It's always better to do smaller than bigger. You get more returns and information that is pertinent to what you're looking for. But once again, you can do it so I did it by city and by state. Here's another state, Michigan. I'll get a bunch of returns. Maybe then I realize, because I'm not familiar with Michigan, let's say, I don't know, there's an upper peninsula and lower peninsula. And then I might do another search after that and say, no, I'm going to the lower peninsula, or I'm going to a region where there's a lake or a certain trail that I find, and then I start researching it. And that might be how I decide where I'm going to do a hike. Once I find the hike I want, then I start looking into it. Is it feasible? Does it meet all my criteria? Does it check off the boxes for what I'm looking for? You can obviously do it for other regions as well. And in this case, like I said, you can even do it with a zip code. So here's the zip code for the area, and I put that in, and I do the search, and I'll get returns as well for the hikes. So I can do any one of those. And so that's how you can begin your searches and find trails. Very easy to do. All Trails and Hiking Project are the two #1 sites. I really like the map in All Trails. It's very convenient to start doing searches. Now, Amazon is another source for that printed material and even maps that I was talking about. So here, I'm going to do the same thing. Smoky Mountains, it's already in there. It's a big, huge park. Thousands of people go there every year. So there's a lot of books about it. So there's a lot of resources there. But let's say I'm not going to a big national park and there's not a lot of information published like there is a national park, some of the areas I was looking at. So I might need to do a different search, and I'm still going to get something. Here I'm just doing the state of Illinois. Not exactly what people would usually think of for hiking, but there are plenty of trails in there. And you can see here some of the returns I get. And obviously, I'm not going to take a lot of time for this. You can do this on your own. But you can just see no matter what you do, you're going to get something. Someone has written a book. Every place in the world, someone's written a book on trails in the area. They might not be great resources, but they're a start. But the electronic resources are, to me, very good. So here you go, once again, hikes in Michigan. And then I'm going to go, I can search again in another area just to show what you're doing. Contact number you got from either the hiking club.
With the emergency contact number you got from either the hiking club or the ranger station, and the hiking club is usually the people that will actually go out and look for you if something happens. Even if you contact the rangers, they're usually going to contact members of the hiking club who are most familiar with the trail. Once you get this emergency contact number, you want to put that on a list along with everyone that's hiking, along with their phone number, and perhaps a phone number of one of their emergency contact persons and a name. So if anything happens, you have a contact number for each hiker, their family, or a friend that they want to be contacted if something happens to them. And I'm going to put this all on the paper along with the emergency contact for the trail I'm on. and I'm going to give that to everybody. I'm definitely going to keep a copy of it for myself because I'm going to stick it in my vehicle when I go hiking. It's kind of old school to do that, but I still do it, and I usually leave it on the floorboard. However, I'm going to give it to, in my case, I give it to my wife. She knows all that information when I leave, where I'm going, how long I think it's going to take, what time she can expect to hear from me, and who to call in case of an emergency. And she's going to have all that information. So they're not going to need that information as long as someone can provide that to authorities for either search and rescue or law enforcement. They'll be able to get that information. I know that's a little daunting or a little concerning when you think I'm leaving this information, but it's just a precaution in case something does happen. Sometimes stuff happens. It could be you have a flat tire and you're in the parking lot and no one else was around to help you and you're changing a tire, or maybe your car won't start. You know, something simple like that. Doesn't mean someone got hurt. It could just mean that you're not able to get home. And what if your phone is dead or there's no reception in the area? You want someone to come looking for you, and you don't want to wait a day or two for that to happen. So I generally tell someone at a time that they can expect a phone call or a contact from me, and I'll give them an extra hour or two. But if I think I'm going to be finished by 2, I usually say, you know, by 3:30, 4 o'clock, you should hear from me. If you don't hear from me that time, you might want to try and call me, or maybe reach out to someone, especially if it's getting dark and I was only planning a day hike. So the only thing left to do now is to get your group together, pick a date on the calendar, start watching the weather, and then get out there and have a good time. If you decide to not go for a date for whatever reason, conflict comes up at last minute, family emergency, whatever it may be, or the weather looks really bad and you decide that's not what you want to do, then that's fine. Just pick another date and go again. But, you know, hold yourself to it. You want to do this, pick the date and go out there and do it and have a great time. And then when you get back, be sure to leave a trail report on any of the websites you may have used so that other people like you that are doing their research for their hikes can find that information and will be able to use you as a resource to help them plan their hike. I hope you found this informative. I hope you got something out of it. Please leave a comment below, good or bad. Let me know some of your first hikes if you've taken them. I'm always looking for new trails, and I'd love to hear some of your adventures you've taken. And especially if this videos or any of my videos have encouraged you to go out there and do a trail, that would be really great. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you once again. Please subscribe if you like the channel. Till we meet again.